Everfest is out. People got their cards. FaB is stocked with all of the cards, all the information you need. It's time to take the collectors, push them to the side, and build some decks. I got Everfest cards that are going to affect your ProQuest, your calling, and even your local armory, and I got 5 of them that you need to either build around or be ready for right now. Let's go. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hometown TCG. You guys know me, my name is Josh, and I am here with the 5 cards that you need to be building around or being ready to play against now that Everfest has released. We have ProQuests, we have callings, we've got armories, we've got kitchen table games going on all over the nation, all over the world, and we got to be ready for some of this Everfest tech that's going to come our way. But before we get to all this, guys, before we get to the 5 cards, normal announcement, we're racing to 4K, and this time, guys, I mean it. You're going to want to click that sub button and that notification bell, because it's official. This week, right here on Hometown TCG, I'm going to be making an announcement that's going to shake up the competitive flesh and blood scene. Guys, I got a huge announcement when it comes to competitive, when it comes to high level flesh and blood, and I cannot wait. So make sure you got that notification bell clicked. You can tell I'm not used to doing this. That notification bell clicked so that you know when the announcement comes live. And finally, not to toot my own horn, but I built our Discord patrons a bot that really helps them search for cards, show cards in their conversation in Discord. If you get the chance and you want to check it out, or if you want to just support the channel more, visit me at patreon.com/HometownTCG, join the Discord, get in there, and then chat with all of us. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much for your support. But finally, let's get rid of all that. I got 5 cards, but before that, guys, you know I can't just keep it to 5 cards. I have some honorable mentions. I have some cards that I think are powerhouses and have a chance to shake up the meta, but just sit right outside that top 5. And the first card I want to talk about is Aether Wildfire. Because Aether Wildfire can be a powerhouse of a card, and we already see Kano creeping their way into the competitive scene. A lot of decks aren't teching against Kano builds, whether it's aggro decks running too few blues, whether it's, control decks not including enough null rune, whatever it might be. These decks are not ready for the Kano matchup, and this is another explosive tool that can help Kano get over the top. So guys, if you got a lot of Kano players around you, or if you think Kano's going to kind of weasel their way into the competitive play, into the CC meta, be ready to see Aether Wildfire slap down on the table. The 2 cost is super cool. It leaves room for a Crucible Aether Weave trigger. You can play it off an energy potion without the trigger. There's so many options with this card. Watch out for Kano. That's one of our first honorable mention. And the last 2 honorable mentions I think are kind of card packages. Swing Big and Rolling Thunder both have an opportunity to really see a lot of play if the meta shifts to more of a back and forth mid-range meta or an all defensive meta. Because in an all defensive meta, in this back and forth, you got Levia and Rhinar. They both have an opportunity to shine. Now, over the last couple sets, both of these decks have got some go again printed. They got some, kind of tech just splattered in here and there and here and there. And it's kind of built up to this pretty powerful set of cards. So Swing Big off of anything that had go again could really pivot an opponent's strategy. You could take an opponent that decided, hey, it's worth it to keep my hand, I don't want to block, and then you throw Swing Big. It's very threatening. They might have to pivot their strategy, and if they do block out, they don't really make great use of the Quicken token. So the Quicken token that's generated doesn't really get used all that effectively. Decks that really effectively block you out probably won't make great use of the Quicken token to begin with. So watch out for this card package to make a splash. And finally, the last card package that I'm going to talk about is going to be a hit with some of you guys out there in Flesh and Blood land. That's right, I think Azalea got some spice in Everfest, and she can be a secret kind of spicy meta pick. Read the Glide Path and Dreadbore are 2 cards that really buff Azalea, and then you combine that with a card like Release the Tension, and Azalea is now in a spot where if the meta shifts to very defensive decks, if defensive builds and holding off your opponent, and these long grindy games are the strategy, Azalea is in a unique place to be able to get over the top, to have relevant hit effects, to be able to push through damage against high value defense hands. And I think if we see that shift in the meta, there are going to be some Azalea players that not only rejoice, but take advantage and take down some of these opponents. This spice is hot. This card package is cool. Watch out for Azalea. But that's the honorable mention, guys. We are on to the top 5. And if you stick around for the end of the video, I have an additional note for you about cards that the community is pretty high on that I think are going to flop. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video. But for right now, top 5 cards that you need to either be ready for or to play in the Everfest Carnival. And the first card is Slice and Dice. That's right. Whoa, this one comes out of left field. But after seeing this card, kind of talking to a couple of the patrons at patreon.com/HometownTCG in the Discord, I think that there is a Sabres Bolton build out there that can pop off. Bolton seems like he might be at a unique spot to be able to take advantage of some of these decks out there, to be able to provide this weird and awkward style pressure. I think Bolton's in a cool spot, and this card, combined with Sabres, if Sabres is the build, can blow up. It's so cool. It automatically gives you the ability to trigger Bolton, give your stuff go again. I think this card is going to 100% make a splash. And if you see Bolton sit down across from you, you better be ready for this card. Now, the card number 4 on this list is a little bit of mech tech, and it's Disillusion Sphere. Guys, Disillusion Sphere is a super cool card. It turns your 3 blocks into effectively blocking 4 damage attacks. It deals with a lot of the maybe ping damage that might be coming from various sources in the existing meta or in the meta as it shapes out. Disillusion Sphere does a ton of what you want to do if you're playing a control style. Now, our mechanologist, and specifically Dash, did get some pretty hardcore tech for the competitive season coming up. I would not be surprised to see a resurgence. Now, with some of our Guardians and our more defensive decks being very prominent right now, I don't expect that we're going to see much boost Dash. That strategy is too easily blown up by a lot of the ice tech currently out there. But Control Dash could not only be viable, but could be a very good deck. I'm excited to see how that shapes out. It's a super consistent deck. It grinds for the long game. It seems like it would have a good matchup against a lot of the top tier decks right now. I'm super excited, and that puts Disillusion Sphere at a really cool spot. Number 4 card for you to build around or be ready for in your tech. Moving on to number 3, I got a soft spot in my heart for this card, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. This one was the easiest pick out of the bunch, and that is Nerves of Steel. That's right, the Hometown TCG spoiler card I truly believe is going to make a splash in competitive Flesh and Blood. And the reason is, a lot of our top tier decks right now are consistent decks, and some of those most consistent decks are our various Guardians. Now, historically, Guardians have had that maybe weaker matchup against Prism, against these small little attacks that can kind of get through, be ping for 3 every turn, ping for 2 every turn, put down an aura, Guardian having to have go again and pop this. It's kind of an inefficient block. It's a weird, they almost grind better than you do. It's a bad matchup. And this card doesn't make the matchup in the Guardian's favor, but it 100% adds a tool in that toolbox. So if you have a good matchup against the rest of the field, and you are given a tool that makes your worst matchup a little bit better, that just means I think you're in a great spot, and I foresee this card turning the tide on some of our illusionists, much to their dismay. I think this card is going to make a giant splash. If you're playing Guardian, you got a ton of Prisms in your meta, you're having trouble dealing with Prism, this card's an auto include. It can definitely be side decked 100%. I think Nerves of Steel is going to make a huge splash. Now, the number 2 card that I think you need to either play or be ready for, that's going to really shake up the meta, it's going to see a ton of play, and that card is even bigger than that. I've got to admit, guys, I built a Katsu deck, and the whole idea of the deck was focused around playing some of the, maybe the new combo finishers, feeling how these new cards felt, and the all-star of the show was even bigger than that. The notion of being able to get a little card selection, dig a little bit, you can discard or dig a little bit off of a Kodachi is insane. If your opponent is at the end of the game, it makes every Kodachi feel like it might be a must block. It puts you in a super weird space, and it puts you on the back foot against these ninja decks trying to block all these Kodachis. Now, it also discards for Katsu, and it gives you pseudo card selection. You're able to dig for a combo piece, dig for something you need to finish off the game, dig for something you need to have this gigantic turn. It's just a great card. And if Saber's Bolton rises to prominence and becomes a viable deck, this card may be included in there as well. I think this card sees a ton of play. I love the design of this card, and you guys need to watch out for it. Even bigger than that at the number 2 slot. But guys, the number 1 slot, to no one's surprise, belongs to a Rune Blade, and that's right, that card is Swarming Gloomveil. If you are playing a Rune Chant focused Rune Blade, oh my goodness, Josh, who could that be? Viserai. Viserai loves this card. This card takes a tempo Viserai build and does everything you want to do. It has the go again almost every turn, almost guaranteed, to be able to turn on your Rosetta non-attack action, Swarming Gloomveil, some hit effect, go again, Rosetta. This card does it all, and on turns that you can get the full effect, that will be extremely nutty. Let it be known, I don't think you're going to very often get the full effect of Swarming Gloomveil, but this is a great card, and I think it adds a lot of power to an already very powerful deck, and we're going to see a ton of this. So if you're playing against this deck, or if you're playing this deck, this card needs to be on your mind. You need to know it exists, and you gotta be ready for it. And those are 5 cards that you guys need to be ready for, that you need to be putting in your decks, that you need to be ready to play against. But I got a spicy take for those of you that have stuck around to the end of the video. I've got 2 cards from the Everfest Carnival that I know for a fact the community has been pretty high on. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm going the opposite direction. And both those cards kind of go hand in hand. They're both Guardian cards. First, let's get the spiciest take out of the way. Bravo, star of the show. There's been a lot of talk about this power being just OP, and the card pool that you get to choose from to play this deck is insane. However, the card pool that you get to choose from, these elemental cards, while very cool, are not historically the most powerful set of cards. So if you want to devote yourself to triggering Bravo's power, you gotta build around that, which means you're gonna have a lot of, kind of what feels like bulk in the deck. It's not gonna be the best feeling in the world, and with it being as inconsistent as it is, it's not gonna trigger consistently enough to really put you over the top. And if you're going to lean away, if you're not really gonna lean into Bravo's power, but you're just gonna lean into the card pool, well, you're missing out on a key factor of what makes Guardian be able to close out these games and get over the top of that dominate. So I think Bravo star of the show is in a weird spot. And if you're watching this video in the future, let me know if this was the worst take of all time, but I don't see it, guys. I gotta tell you, I'm not feeling Bravo star of the show. And then the one that's going to get me some more hate that I think might even be more than Bravo star of the show is Pulverize. Guys, I'm not feeling Pulverize, and here's why. It's a card that you really have to commit to. It can often be hard to pull off. You have to keep a lot of resources to even heave it into your arsenal, right? You got to make these Seismic Surge tokens, and then on the following turn, you then have to throw the attack if you want to, get any benefit from the Seismic Surge tokens you may have generated. What this means is in a deck where you're often on the back foot, you're often playing really efficient and effective defense in these Guardian decks, grinding out your opponent, having relevant random hit effects, it means that you have to take almost 2 turns off to commit to this plan. And if that plan ends up just being 14 Dominate, which don't get me wrong, 14 Dominate is fantastic, you might take more than that in the 2 turns it takes you between setup and throwing the attack. It's a dangerous card, and couple that with something all the Bravo players, when they first started, were familiar with. I was familiar with it as well. If you arsenal that card late in the game and you don't have access to something like Crown of Seeds to get it out of that arsenal, it can be stuck there for a long time. You might not be in a position where you can hold enough resources, hold back enough cards on defense to be able to turn around and throw that attack. And if you can't do that, that means a dead arsenal slot that's face up that your opponent knows about. It could be a very, very weird interaction. So it's a card that you got to learn to play around. And I think that card is going to cause a lot of players some trouble. It's going to cause a lot of play mistakes, and it's going to close out some of these Guardians when it gets stuck in Arsenal. So my hot take, guys, Bravo star of the show, Pulverize. Don't know if I'm feeling them super much. That doesn't mean there'll be none of them, but it's just not this powerhouse that I think people assume. But that's it. That's the video, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Let me know in the comment section below which cards you are building around, which cards you are looking out for. Again, make sure that notification bell is clicked. I can't stress this enough. I'm so pumped for this announcement. This announcement's got me more pumped than I've been on this channel in some time, even when I made the meme video that everyone made fun of me for. So click sub, get that notification bell smashed, and I appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks again to the patrons at patreon.com/HometownTCG. You guys keep the lights on and you make the videos run. Until next time, you guys know me. My name is Josh, and if that take is bad, don't pulverize me. Get it? See ya!